Have you ever felt burned out in your job? How about in life? If you feel you are in this spot, you are not alone, and this episode is for you. Today's guest, Scott Medlin, spends his work helping high performers in high-stress professions recognize burnout before it becomes a breaking point. Through his 10-code mindset, Scott challenges the idea that pushing through at all costs is strength, and instead teaches leaders and professionals how awareness, balance, and intentional recovery lead to better decisions, healthier relationships, and long-term performance both at work and home.
Ask yourself some questions. What are you doing that is helping you? What are you doing that is not helping you? And be very honest with yourself. So when you ask yourself, what am I doing that's helping me? I doubt you're going to put in the answer, working my butt off. What is not helping me? Working my butt off. And then other things are, what can you do to truly unplug? And then I realized how much we, particularly in law enforcement, but other high-stress career fields, I'm sure, are not being told how we are as human beings. And I realized, wow, if we don't train our minds, if we don't train ourselves and build up a good foundation, that we will live in survival mode, because that's what our brain is wired for. The language we have, and I bring that up in the 10-code mindset course, like, are the words you're using helping you or hurting you? And when we're using language like same crap, different day, or why did this have to happen to me, or this is all I can do, or I am not this, that's very limited, self-defeating language. I don't come to you, and I'm not saying this as some self-righteous know-it-all, absolutely not. I've said all these things. It's just a matter of who lives, who learns, and who takes the pain and moves on, but also through additional research just to back it up when people are like, oh, bull crap, the words you say can't affect, whatever, like our outcomes. Yes, they can. They shape our beliefs, and we act based on beliefs. So, yeah, I would say watch your language when it comes to navigating this type of thing.
Welcome to Iron and Empathy, the podcast where we explore what it truly takes to build strong, resilient teams in high-stakes environments. I'm your host, Drew Moldenhauer. Iron and Empathy is proudly sponsored by Blue Ethos Specialized Training, a national leader in workplace violence prevention, active threat preparedness, and de-escalation training. At Blue Ethos, we don't just focus on safety. We help organizations improve workplace culture by strengthening communication, increasing situational awareness, and creating environments where people feel supported, empowered, and prepared to intervene early before problems escalate. Thanks for being here. Let's get into today's conversation. With me today, I have Scott Medlin. Scott Medlin is a Marine Corps veteran, former police officer, national speaker, and author dedicated to helping first responders and professionals in high-stress careers build the mental habits needed to prevail on and off the job. After deploying twice to Iraq with U.S. Marine Corps, Scott later served in law enforcement from 2007 to 2022, where he experienced firsthand the cumulative weight of stress, trauma, and identity challenges that often go unseen. Today, he equips those who serve with practical, realistic strategies to strengthen mindset, maintain purpose, and protect what matters most. Scott is the author of 101 stress-busting tips for first responders and other books focused on mental fitness and rising above the chaos. Scott, thanks for being with us today.
I'm honored, Drew. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. And where are you joining us from today?
I am in South Florida, and I know people think of palm trees and sunny, warm weather, but as of the recording of this video, December 31st, 2025, we are cold down here.
Yeah, tell me about it.
Oh, my gosh. We started out in the 40s, and I know that would make people laugh. I'm from North Carolina, so that I'm thinking, really? I'm freezing, and it's in the 40s? But, yeah. So, anyway, but doing good. The sun is out, and life is a gift, so doing good.
Fantastic. And just so you guys all know, all my listeners out there, Scott is a good friend of mine. We have a mastermind group where we get together quarterly and talk about, some of the challenges that we're facing, how to help each other's businesses out, and it's just been great. So I got to meet Scott when I was down in Florida on a speaking gig, and he's just a phenomenal guy. So with that, Scott, tell us a little bit about yourself and how you got started in the line of work of what you're doing.
Yeah, I got started in the line of work of what I'm doing now because after I got out of the Marines, went into law enforcement, as the bio said, just worked in law enforcement for several years. But like the tipping point, I guess, for lack of a better phrase, is in 2016, I'd been on the K-9 unit for 3.5 years at that point, and I let that job essentially become who I was. And in 2015, my son was born. But in 2016, my wife got to a point where she was like, okay, I'm just going to do this on my own. Like, I'm going to take care of the house. I'm going to raise our son. You're just going to be out there being a K-9 officer. And it hit me. I was like, oh, shoot, I've let this job become who I am. I had to give it up for the sake of my family. And that hit me really hard. It really did. I had to say goodbye to the dog, and I didn't know what my purpose was anymore. Just stepping out, looking, I mean, easy to see it now. Well, the purpose was, who was at home? My wife and my son. I went into an emotional rut from 2017 to 2018. And yes, I've, prior to this, had other mental health battles that I actually had to get professional help for. But this really led me into what I'm doing now. And in 2017, 2018, when I was in this kind of rut of who the heck am I? What the heck do? I started reading, which, if you want to change how you are, you're going to have to start doing different things. I didn't read a lot, but I started reading about how we are as human beings. And then I realized how much we, particularly in law enforcement, but other high-stress career fields, I'm sure, are not being told how we are as human beings. And I realized, wow, if we don't train our minds, if we don't train ourselves and build up a good foundation, that we will live in survival mode, because that's what our brain is wired for, just on an innate level. So I started reading more about that, and then started reading more into mental health based on experience, but also just wanting to learn more about it. And once again, it was just things we were not being told. Like your brain will seek what's comfortable. Yes, it wants you to learn new things, but it's amazing how once we start to learn new things and then take new action, the brain's like, whoa, let's go back to what we know. And also that we don't have to work hard at being negative people. Our brains will focus on the negativity in and of itself. And then our brains are not wired to make us happy. And there's other things I learned where I was just like, why wasn't I told about this? So you take a high-stress career and all the negativity and sometimes downright trauma someone can be exposed to. One, if you lack the basic knowledge of how we are as human beings, but then two, you don't know what kind of actual steps to put in place and make them habits, then once again, that's survival mode, or we'll just straight burn out and then crash. And I don't care what other people say, like, it's going to sound harsh, but being exhausted, being burned out is not something to be proud of. We can't look at it that way. And I'm not knocking anyone who's thinking of it like that. I just challenge the perspective because at one point I've thought of it that way as well. Instead, let's just take a perspective of, I got to keep growing. And we can't keep growing as people if we're burned out, if we're exhausted. But ultimately, it comes down to, if we keep growing as people, we have more of an impact we can make. And that's why I keep speaking on what I'm doing, or that's why I keep speaking about this stuff, because back in 2016, had I known this stuff, disaster probably could have been avoided. But then again, many times we can take pain and make a purpose out of it and make something good from it. So that's it in a nutshell for now, just kind of where it started.
Fantastic. And you and I both, being in law enforcement, I started around the exact same time as you. I started in 2007, and actually today is my last day. I'm going to be, officially retired from law enforcement after 18 years on the first of the year. So it is interesting when we look back. I am proud of the service that I've done as a police officer, but you're right. There's so much that we can learn from, and the stuff that you're talking about, I'm shocked that through the academies, through our academic areas, we don't learn a lot about this, which just shocks me, because you're right. Why aren't we taught this in the academy? One of the things that I've thought about, kind of went along the lines of what you're talking about, is we never really learned how to de-escalate ourselves too, or you're in this super hostile situation. how do we start to engage our parasympathetic nervous system, because our sympathetic nervous system is off the charts, and we don't really learn about the biology of the brain. It's so focused on here's the job, but they don't focus on your human side and how to take care of yourself. And I'm so glad that you're sharing this message, because especially for young nurses, teachers, police officers, dispatchers, that these types of jobs, they take a lot from you. And if you don't learn how to take care of yourself properly, it can lead you down the wrong path. So when you said that part about being burned out is not cool, I am with you 100%. And I find it interesting, Scott, and I want to get your perspective on this, is you look at airplane pilots and they can only fly during certain hours. Other than that, they have to be done. You know, here's your window, that's it. Truck drivers, same thing. But as police officers, it's almost a badge of honor to say, yeah, I worked 24 hours of overtime and I haven't slept in however many hours. Or, you know, I've been at work this entire week and I made $200,000 extra dollars just in overtime. And you look at that, and that is kind of praised in some of these areas, and people think that's pretty cool and everything. But really, it's, what is that costing you? And why isn't there regulations against that? Because we are authorized to take people's lives. We carry a gun. We drive vehicles at very high speed, and we don't have to have a set amount of sleep. At least for me in Minnesota, it was that way, that you don't have to have this big a break. If they need to fill the shift, they need to fill the shift. So I'm just kind of curious about your thoughts on that, and, you know, that burnout, and, you know, what you saw from that.
Well, I'll give credit where credit is due. It hit me back in 2017 when I attended the North Carolina School Resource Officers Conference, and we had the legendary Lieutenant Colonel Dave Grossman come speak, and he said, if you don't sleep, you're a liability. He said, we have a lot of tired cops out there, and they are liabilities. And it's just, I had never heard anything remotely close to that before, and I was like, dang, he's right. And it did remind me of a thing that happened in 2009. I was 2 years on. I was working at a smaller agency at the time. That's a story in and of itself. But a friend of mine who was an officer there said, hey, I'm going to go home. I only slept for 3 hours last night, and I just don't feel like I need to be carrying a gun. I'm going to go home. And I went, oh, okay. But then some other guys were like straight up making fun of him. What a guy to make the right call. Like, yes. What a guy. But that just reminded me of that. But when Lieutenant Colonel Grossman said that, I'll never forget it. But then I also started researching during this journey of personal development, how we are as humans, mental health, and sleep is a game changer. It affects every single aspect of our lives. And anyone listening, if you have the mentality of, I'll sleep when I'm dead, I thrive off little sleep, please stop. It's not true. And I was amazed at just how much people will value having a successful career. That's a great thing.
Right.
But think about it. You can have that much more of a successful career and feel good while doing it when you get better sleep and doing things to help fuel us rather than keep us in survival mode, and ultimately lead to fulfillment afterwards. You can say, you know what? I took care of myself. I got the sleep I needed. I had a very successful career. I feel fulfilled, and I can just keep on going.
Yes, no, I completely agree with you. And, you know, when I take a look at this, and the more I had to learn on my own too, is I look at psychological safety. And by definition, psychological safety is people that are not afraid to speak up. They are not afraid to take calculated risks or to make mistakes in their group. And I see with law enforcement, we struggle with that a lot. Just like your story that you described, as your partner that says, I got to go home and get some sleep. He wasn't afraid to speak up at that point, even though people were making fun of him. And I noticed that just even in my job where, you know, when I was a young rookie and I was in roll call, I might have said some things or brought up good vital safety information and people would tell me to shut up. Well, the effect that can have on you is, okay, I'm no longer going to share this information because I don't feel safe enough to do that. But that's good from the aspect that you had someone that actually said, I am not safe in this position. I need to go get some sleep. I need to reset here. That's huge. And I think we need to have more of that. And I remember just depending on who the sergeant was or who I was working with, it was encouraged sometimes just maybe take a little bit of a nap on duty and have someone next to you that could help get you up if a call came. But I found it interesting that you had firefighters that could go and sleep. They actually had bunks ready for them. Ambulance drivers and EMS, they would lay down and take a nap and their partner would just stay up, that kind of way. But in the police department, I had a sergeant that would write me up if he saw me just even kicking my head back. And it was like, man, I'm working 12-hour nights here, 5 days in a row. That's 60 hours of work. And it's pitch black in Minnesota where, it's the sun goes down at 4:30. It was a struggle. So again, I think that sleep part is so important. So I'm glad you talked about that. Say, Scott, what is the 10 code mindset? I notice you have a few things with your podcast and your books about this. So what is the 10 code mindset and what does it change for someone on their worst day, not their best?
The 10 code mindset is basically just a program that I came up with to help first responders and others who work in high stress careers rise and prevail. Get out of survival mode, get through that mental health struggle you might be feeling. Life hits everybody, but it's also knowing that even when life hits hard, you're struggling, or it's just a very chaotic shift. You have the ability to shift your focus on what can help you, like shifting your focus away from a problem. I'm not saying be oblivious to it, not aware of it, but focus on a solution. When you focus on a solution, you're more likely to find a solution rather than to keep the problem lingering. But also, in addition to shifting our focus, there are things we can do. Like we don't have to rely on external circumstances to change and external factors, as in supervision or admin, to change. I know these are stressors out there, even if it's just simple things like walking up the stairs at the workplace instead of taking the elevator, because literally when we walk, we change our physiology and it just helps to release endorphins, particularly exercise does more of that, and we shift our mood. It's like, I think it's Viktor Frankl, who, if you don't know who he is, look him up. He said, when we can't change things how things are, then the only thing we can do is change ourselves. So you got to do things that you can do. And that's what the 10 code mindset is all about. It's just like, here's the awareness part. Like, I prove to you that you're a human because I am fine will only get you so far. Trust me, I tried it. And then there is the awareness piece, as in, here's how our brains are wired, but there's also some things we have that can work for us or against us in our mind. For example, the reticular activating system, it literally filters in information that is which is most important to us. So what you focus on, you're going to see more of. And therefore, here are some steps to broaden our mindset, strengthen it. I'm not saying you won't feel stress. I'm not saying you won't feel negative emotions. But you'll just know we can move forward through relentless action, even if it's the simple step of taking a look at a picture of your family and smiling, or writing down what you're grateful for, or just thinking of a goal you want to achieve and feel as if it has already been achieved and say, you know what, I can do this. That's what the 10 code mindset is about. It's just rising above the chaos. Through relentless action after you're made aware of certain things that we need to be aware of, that I know I wasn't, like asocial tendencies or hypervigilance. I thought I was just being aware when my wife and I would go out. But she would tell me, hey, you're doing that thing where you just can't stop looking around. I'm like, well, I'm aware of my surroundings. She's like, no, you're not. I'm like, yeah, it ended up, I later found out it was hypervigilance. Or asocial tendencies, where we start to feel withdrawn or indifferent towards fostering relationships with people. That's very damaging. That can lead to isolation. That's a very dangerous place to be. So there are things we have to be aware about in addition to the action items. And that's basically the program in a very broad nutshell.
I love it. I love that you talk about that. And I just want to make sure our viewers are understanding. And I'm just going to ask you a question about this with the reticular activating system that you talked about. Is that kind of the thing where people swear, hey, I'm looking at buying a black Jeep and now I'm driving around and all I'm doing is I'm seeing black Jeeps everywhere. Yep. So it's kind of that concept of, if I'm just looking for negativity, I'm going to find the negativity in everything, versus if we shift our mindset and think, I'm going to find the positivity with everything. Now I'm going to start seeing the glass half full. Am I going on the right path there?
That
Okay.
is spot on. And that is one of the most common analogies used for the reticular activating system is you buy a car and then all of a sudden you see that car a lot more on the road than what you did prior to owning that car. The car was already, those cars were already there. It's the same thing whenever psychologists or other presenters say, hey, I want you to count how many blue items you see in a room. And you start looking, and then they go, okay, how many can tell me how many green things are in the room? Well, you don't know because you were focused on blue. You didn't even notice the green. That's the reticular activating system at work. It's a filter to put to our conscious level of thinking what's important to us. And it can help us or it can hurt us. But I get it. Change is hard. It's not going to happen overnight. We're recording this, Drew, on New Year's Eve. It's like people say new year, new me. There's a lot more to it than that. There's a process that has to go through, like neuroplasticity. Our brains rewire themselves. But when you start to shift your focus more and more, that rewiring starts to happen. And it can lead to new perspectives. It can lead to new ways of looking at things that happened in the past and helping them to utilize and action to propel you forward to a more powerful, focused future. I could go on.
Yeah, no, I
about
love
that. But you were right. Yeah, that's how the RAS works. And I always tell people, like, if you can't remember the term, just know the power and ability that your mind has.
Yes,
it's very important.
I'm so glad you bring that up. And just from my own path, I had heart surgery a couple of years ago. One of the hardest things I ever went through, sitting in that hospital bed. And most people at my age now, I'm 41, have gone through some kind of medical deal or they've known someone that has. But if you have, you'll know what I'm talking about here. And I remember sitting on that hospital bed. And after I had the heart surgery, the doctor looked at me and said, CrossFit's probably not that much in your future anymore because you're going to have to take some medication that's going to bring your heart rate down and do these other things. And when that happened, I thought, what can I do? And I was inspired to start training for a Ironman. And I had never swam down a pool. I couldn't even get down. Me and my buddy tried, and I couldn't even put my head in the water. And I had ran one marathon before that and didn't even own a bike. But it was one of those things where my mindset at that time is I can just sit here and accept what this is, or I can, better myself. And when I did that, I started doing little triathlons, which led to bigger ones. And then finally this last year in September, I completed my first Ironman, and it was one of the most, I can't even explain it, just amazing feelings ever, because I truly believe it was my mindset. I had a big step back, but I thought to myself, I'm going to do this and I'm going to fight through it. And when you were talking about that and changing everything, it was really awesome where while I was training for this, other good things started coming in because I started seeing the positive with everything. Hey, look at what you're doing. You were just in a hospital bed a little bit ago, but now your business is, doubling in business. Now you got this. Now you were just offered a full-time professor job. Now all these things start coming in just because I took that mindset shift and turned it more positive, thinking I'm going to do this. So I think that's so important, Scott, when you talk about that, where just shifting your mindset to see more positive things can lead and manifest greatness out of that. So I think that's awesome.
And it's possible to do. I mean, if you Google mindset, you're going to probably come across some definition that says a set of attitudes and established beliefs. But nowhere in that definition does it say permanent. That's why there really is the term paradigm shift, because you can shift your perspective. And ultimately, throughout life, we have to, because things change anyway. So if things change on the outside, what makes you think we can stay the same? We can't. And I know for cops, many cops listening out there, what's that phrase? Like, cops hate change, but yet hate the way things are too.
Yes.
It's like, you gotta keep changing, and it's okay.
Right.
But if it's one of those where if you do things that keep you in survival mode, that's not going to help your mindset. Doom scrolling, stress eating, drinking, sleep deprivation, because you've been up watching movies and stuff like that. I'm not judging anyone. Like, we can all fall into it, guilty as charged. But have the mindset to say, all right, I'm going to do these things that I don't see immediate pleasure from immediately, but over time, I know they will create lasting pleasure, which in the beginning, they seem painful, like working out. And if you haven't been to the gym in a while, that kind of stuff, it'll lead to lasting pleasure. and also strengthening your mental fitness as well. But you're right. Mindset is huge. It's amazing how we can change it, and it's possible. And, we're never going to be perfect, but I love how a trainer of mine once said, progress over perfection. And that's the way I look at mindset.
That's a great point. And I guess question for you on this, and I just want your opinion when it comes to this, because I've always wondered this is, as police officers, we have the likelihood of dying by our own gun way more than being shot and killed on the street. I mean, it's just astronomical. When it comes to police deaths, it's way more suicide than being, shot or in an accident, that kind of way. And so I look at that and I say, we constantly are training on tactics and use of force and firearms. Why do you think it is, in your opinion, why we're not focusing more on this? And how should we be implementing this more?
I know how we could implement it more, but I don't know why the focus is not on it. I just don't. Some people have said, some make the argument, well, you're just a number. We just teach the tactics. Others say it's optics. Well, if we say this whole mental health struggle is a thing, well, then we look bad. Others, I've heard this before. Well, it's the curriculum's already tight as is.
Yes.
Can't really get that mental health stuff in there. I've heard a lot of different perspectives. Obviously, I'm one of those that's like, you got to make this more than what it is. Or it's, well, we have a peer support unit, or we have online training once a year that addresses it. That's just a checklist.
Right.
Do you have effective training that happens, or do you have an effective peer support unit? So that's what I've encountered. Heck, I remember right before I left law enforcement full-time in 2020, then I went part-time in it for a few years. The chief actually asked the department, would anyone be interested in a peer support unit? And it was overwhelmingly no, because people were worried about gossip starting. So there it was. It was squashed. And it was obviously bad. So he got that aspect too. But I've been on, what was the second half of your question?
Just why don't you think it was, and how can we change this so that we can start putting it more into academies, more in curriculum?
Yeah, I think the academy is very important. That's obviously where people are more impressionable. And I do know of some states in particular that have implemented it, but in my opinion, not enough. It's just a 4-hour block on mental health. I don't, it's not going to cover it. But that's where I get the curriculum is set by the state and the curriculum's tight. We don't have much of a schedule to work around it. I've been on LinkedIn. I've been on YouTube. I've been on Instagram as best I can, just saying, here's the deal. You're not going to walk up to when you're any police officer out there, you're not going to walk up to a car in a traffic stop and leave your gun and radio in the car, in the patrol car, and then say, well, if I need it, I'll go get it. You can't wait on training your mind in this job. You just can't. So I've said, don't wait on the rookie school to put it in place. Don't wait on the admin to put it in place. Like, go ahead and take the initiative yourself.
Yeah.
Start self-educating. It's very important. I had to do it when I was in that rut in 2017, 2018. And I realized if I keep doing what I'm doing, I'm going to keep getting the same results. And I started reading books, and that's what changed. It broadened my knowledge, but knowledge in and of itself is not power. If you ask me, it's the action that follows that's very important. So I am glad that there's been a shift in the culture, particularly in law enforcement and other first responder work. We are seeing more of a shift towards it, but I still think it's at a point where it's up to the individual officer. But that's any aspect of the job. It's like you can't rely on the once a year you go shoot at the range for qualification and make it your only time you go to the range. Or you can't rely on maybe they do BJJ training or subject control training and some instructor comes once a year. You can't rely on that, just that once a year stuff. Same thing with our minds. We just you gotta take the initiative to make yourself better for the career, for life, that kind of thing.
Yeah, no, I completely agree with you. And like you said, it's not just a one and done type deal. It's, your subconscious memory can pull emotions and it can pull repetitions. And the more repetitions you have in your brain of those positive thoughts and getting yourself healthier and doing that and establishing these routines and these patterns, that's what can lead to better success. So I agree 100% with you on that.
Definitely. And I'd like to expand on that if you don't mind.
Yeah.
What
absolutely.
you just said is so important. Like when I read T. Harv Eker's book, Secrets of the Millionaire Mind, it's not a book. It's not like a boring investment book. It's not like that. He pointed out how people who achieve really big financial success think differently than those who stay monetarily poor. And he said, you have to remember how your thinking is, because thinking leads to how you feel, and how you feel leads to the action you take, and the actions you take lead to the results you get. And it's just that was a light bulb moment where I was like, oh my gosh, so the innate wiring of our brain is to focus on the negative. Therefore, we feel negative. We're more likely to take negative actions or have like this apathy, and then we don't get really good results. That survival mentality or meeting the bare minimum requirements, that kind of thing. So it was just a light bulb moment. Had to share that with the audience. Just remember, thoughts lead to how we feel, and how we feel leads to the action we take. Action we take lead to the results. It's crucial.
I completely agree with you. No, I'm glad you shared that part of it, because that kind of stuff, the more and more people can learn from that, especially if they're at that time in their career, whether that, again, that's being, in a high stress job, whatever that is, manufacturing, teaching, wherever it is, thinking about those kinds of things can really start to shift your mindset with that. Mm-hmm. So, Scott, you talked a lot about mindset. What moment in your career made you realize that pushing through was no longer working? Now, I know you mentioned a little bit with the canine, but what was the real risk of that in pushing through? And if you would have just kept on that path instead of having your, wife say, hey, you've changed, what was the real risk of just pushing through that part?
I was worried I was just going to be kind of the same crap, different day. I'll survive. I'll be happier when the shift is over. I'll be happier when I can take vacation next time, or I'll be happier when I retire. I saw a lot of people in the career going through the motions, but also talking about it as if they were serving some kind of prison sentence. And I hate to be blunt like that, but it's true. I mean, when I hear someone say 12 years can't go by fast enough, I mean, are you behind bars? Yeah, right. But then I would say, well, why don't you just leave? Well, I can't leave because of the retirement.
Right.
And then I'm thinking, well, if you lose followers over this, Drew, I apologize. But it's one of those where I was thinking millions upon millions of people have gone through their lives without a law enforcement or a teaching or a whatever government job pension, and retired and flourished financially and in their purpose and finding the next opportunity. But I started to realize people were like imprisoning themselves and limited beliefs. And I was also getting to a point where I thought, like when I had to leave Canine, I was like, it's all I know. It's all I want to do. It's all I can't, like that's what I was called for. It's like, no, there's other things. There's other things. So that's what I fear would have happened. But also resentment at home, and a disconnect that could have kept fueling that hypervigilance. And that would not have been good. I felt like, oh shoot, am I going to be another police officer that loses? If I don't get divorced, we're going to be so disconnected that it'll be like what, there was a story that, Dr. Kevin Gilmartin mentioned in his book, Emotional Survival for Law Enforcement, how at an officer's retirement ceremony, I think a high rank came up to the son of that retiring officer and said, wow, your dad is like so driven. He's such a passionate man. And the son said, I don't know anything about what you're saying. He was never home. I don't know any of that. Yeah. And I'm paraphrasing. It might not have been specifically like that, but that stood out to me. And I was worried that had I keep doing what I was doing, that these are some of the things that would have happened.
No, that's a good point. And you're right. I mean, you look at that kind of stuff, it starts to become our identity. When you said the whole part about being canine, I remember I put in for sergeant twice with my first department. I didn't get it either time, and I thought my whole world was going to crumble. I mean, that was my identity. My goal when I first started was I was going to be the chief. of that department. That's what I wanted. And it was like this big wake-up call when I didn't get promoted twice that, hey, maybe I got to start looking at other areas here and what I can look for. And I still have so much respect for that profession. But boy, when I started looking at that, I could have gone down a path that was going to be really dark and bad, and everything that Kevin Gilmartin talks about in his book, Emotional Survival for Law Enforcement, that would have been really bad. And one of the things I just want to bring up about that book that's fantastic is a lot of my students have read that. I signed it in high school. And it's amazing if you read that book and then 6 years into your career, if you look back and see how much of that is true, the stuff he talks about there is just wild. So,
oh yeah.
Yeah, it's crazy. I think if you polled a lot of people in that field, they could say, yeah, I noticed this kind of stuff with the spending and whatever else it is, and certain ways that you're coping that were negative. It's really good. So, Scott, you work with leaders a lot. What are some of the subtle warning signs that a high-performing employee is burning out long before it becomes obvious? And we're talking if this is, maybe an attorney, a nurse, police officer, whatever it is. What is some of those subtle warning signs that you see that a high-performing employee is burning out long before it becomes obvious?
Well, one of them is the loss of enthusiasm, but also when it feels like it's easier to be at work than it is to be at home. Just keep working. Not because stuck in that sympathetic fight or flight and unable to just be truly present, let the parasympathetic rest and digest take over, and also help us have the mindset of being fully present to those at home. I spoke at a command staff meeting one time, and I remember a higher rank came up to me and said, I just kept working. I was an absent father. And it's just because he was fighting this. He was just fighting it in the sense of course he got tired, but it was just burnout starts when you feel like you've lost that sense of purpose, but you'll just stay busy rather than be productive. You'll just stay busy and you'll stay away. And it's all I think it's just kind of a distraction in a way. But we've all seen it. I mean, I remember this one guy I used to work with. When he was at work, he was just so driven, and it's just, he wouldn't slow down. And I'm like, dude, you're on the verge of crashing and burning. It's like you're heading towards it. And he didn't believe me. He didn't listen to anyone. And most of the time we don't. And then all of a sudden, he crashed emotionally and made a bad decision at work that went against policy, and he got fired. But of course it was the department's fault.
Sure.
I mean, like in his perspective.
Yes. Right.
But had he not gone through that burnout, I think he would have still been there today. Yeah, it's that's one of the things to look out for, in my opinion. And that feeling of like, I'm tired, I'm done, I'm not as creative as I used to be, I don't take the initiative like I used to, I'm just going through the motions. Drew, I'm not like a mental health professional.
Sure.
But these are some of the things to definitely be on the lookout. Based on the readings I have done, based on what I've seen, these are some things to be on the lookout for.
And I, just speaking from my own experience on this too, is I was definitely 100% guilty of that too. Is I'm going to do all this. I was encouraged, not to take my vacation time, not to take the time off. And when I started my own business a couple of years ago, I got so addicted to it, because when you start having some success in that area, it can be intoxicating. It can be this feeling that's amazing that, hey, I'm having some success with this and we're booking more gigs. I'm getting more speaking jobs. And boy, I just got to tell you, and I don't know if you've had this before, Scott, but physiologically, I remember just last year, I was at this point where I was pushing myself so much that there's some books out there, The Body Says No, or, The Body Keeps Score. And it's one of the wildest things that I've ever experienced in my life. But I hit this point where I had this sudden urge where it was like I had to go to the bathroom all the time. And it would hit me right before I was about ready to go on stage, right before I was about ready to present, right when I was about ready to do some work. It would hit me so hard that I was like, oh my gosh, I feel like I'm going to have to go to the bathroom right now. What's going on with me? And I went into the doctor's office, had every test you could think of, negative. Everything was just super negative. And I'm like, what is going on with me? And the only way that I could find release was, this sounds so crazy, but was coming home and mowing the lawn, or doing something where I was taking my mind off of work and actually getting one with the earth, if you will, like going out in the woods for a walk or working out a little bit. And boy, did it hit me so hard. And I don't have that problem anymore, but it was one of the scariest things ever. I mean, I was in between buying homes. I was flying all over the place. I was a wild man. If you looked at my schedule, I mean, I was in different states every day. I was doing all these other things, and it is so real. And I couldn't believe that happened to me. And I'm thinking, I'm doing all this research about it. And truly, I think what it was just, I was stressing myself out so much. Yeah. Like you said, that I'm just at this work. I got to get this done, that I was burning myself out. So now I had to take time in my schedule to say, all right, next month I'm taking this week off and I'm just going to my cabin. I'm not doing anything. And I'm just pushing things aside because I was pushing so hard. And I was just curious if you had any of those physiological effects. I know it affects people differently, where they've said they've had just like a mental breakdown, or if they've had a panic attack, or they just sat in their car and they just sat there for an hour and they just didn't go into work. Did you ever experience that in your life, that you'd be comfortable sharing, that there was little physiological signs that, hey, I'm burning out here?
Yeah, I guess the first thing that comes to mind is, I've always been pretty dedicated to working out, and I'm no perfect eater, but eating overall pretty healthy and staying in good physical shape. But 4 or 5 years into my law enforcement career, it was a physical fitness assessment, but it was optional, which I was like, why are we doing this if it's optional? But in my opinion, it should be mandatory for cops to stay in shape. But it was optional. And they said, well, in order for you to participate in it, then your blood pressure can't be too high. And I was thinking, oh, no big deal. All right, let's take it. It was so high I couldn't participate.
Wow.
I mean, I had been working so hard and just loving the job so much and taking all these off-duty jobs that were, quote, easy money, because ultimately if something happened nearby and I was able to peace out and go help other officers, boy, I was doing it and loving it. And the lack of sleep and just the work, and not letting my parasympathetic nervous system have any say-so, I couldn't participate. And it was pretty humiliating because everyone was like, what, you? That was a big indicator.
And when you have those kinds of things, what would you say to listeners if they're starting to experience maybe some of those? What would be your best advice in that situation, where kind of like what I had going on with me and what you had with the high blood pressure? What would you say is a good coping technique or something that they should be apparent of when that happens?
Ask yourself some questions. What are you doing that is helping you? What are you doing that is not helping you? And be very honest with yourself. So when you ask yourself, what am I doing that's helping me? I doubt you're going to put in the answer, working my butt off. What is not helping me? Working my butt off. And then other things are, what can you do to truly unplug? I would go to the gym and box and do jujitsu, but I knew why I was doing it, because I didn't want to be a liability out there on the street, and I wanted to be able to control someone, or if I did get attacked, be able to defend myself. So I always had the work mode, even in the gym. But also, I would say, ask those who you know best and ask those who you know care about you the most. That's particularly when family is very important. And I wrote about this in my book, Mental Health Fight of the Heroes in Blue. Have them speak up and be open and willing to hear what they have to say about how you've changed, or how you could, or how they would like you to relax and scale back. And you get paid the same no matter what you do. And is the off-duty job, is the overtime, is it truly necessary? So those kind of things. That's some advice I would give.
I love that. Yes. And get ready for some honest feedback and be able to do that. And the people that you're talking about that will give that to you, they're saying it because they care about you. So I love that.
I mean, my wife, I don't ask for it. She just gives it to me, but it's normally right.
You're right. Right.
But she's so right, though. She's like, oh, you're going down that negative rabbit hole again. I'm like, you know what? Thank you. You're right. Probably why we've been able to stay married 15 years and still just have a great time with each other, because we can be brutally honest with each other about how we're doing. And have that person in life that can not humble you, but get your attention, but also provide solutions, support, and help you keep things in perspective. We can't stay out of nor get out of survival mode alone. It's just not going to happen.
Right. No, and I had my significant other, Emily, really helped me during those times too. That would help calm me down, go for a walk, let me release, soothe before we try to solve any issues. And really, that's where we started figuring it out that, hey, just being grounded and doing these other things, slowing down really, really helps. So I love that. Yeah. Scott, what role does identity play when someone retires, leaves the profession, or faces an injury or forced transition?
Yeah, I know we've touched on this, but it basically comes down to the phrase of who you are is way more important than what you do. And someone who's been there, I beg you not to put your self-worth on your external role. I would say I am a canine officer when people would meet me, and I am are very powerful words, very powerful. On the flip side of that, when it comes to mindset, if you say I am not, well, then you're going to live out a self-fulfilling prophecy on that. If you say, like, I am not someone who can work in other areas, well, guess what? You're not going to be open to ideas. But I don't want to go down too much on that tangent. But when it comes to role identity, it's just that. You have to remember who you are. And when I left Canine for family reasons and I didn't know what the heck to do, it's because I didn't really know who I was. And I had forgotten just how much I enjoy showing up to support other people. I enjoy serving others. I am someone who can do other things other than law enforcement. Like, I'm about to open up a franchise store. And it's like, 10 years ago or 10 years ago when all this is happening, if you told me that was going to happen, I'd have said, go to the hospital, check yourself in, you've lost your mind.
Right. Yes.
It's amazing because I don't let external things or external roles become my identity anymore. Now, am I a husband? Am I a father? Yeah, that's totally different, obviously. But, I love to go out and speak across the country. And I'll put on paper national speaker, but if there comes a day, and there will come a day when maybe I can't do that anymore.
Sure.
And if I've gotten this title mixed up with who I am, then that's going to really hit very hard. So whatever it is, and you brought it up in the question, I do know police officers and other people have had to leave their careers because of injury. And they're devastated. They essentially grieve the career. But I've seen some who grieved it so much having to leave it that they turned that pain into some they turned it around to some incredible strength. And they're doing great things to give back to not only the profession they enjoyed working in, but helping others as well. But not that I wish anything like that to happen on anyone. I don't. But just know that it could. And if you have to leave the profession, whether retirement or leaving for your family or you're injured and forced out because you've identified yourself with this role, does that mean you're less of a person when you have to leave? No, absolutely not. You can take that servant's heart, no matter what career you had to leave, and apply it and make an impact in some other ways. And yeah, it might not be the same exact details you used to do. Like, I do miss responding to Walmart to stop that shoplifter. I do. Yeah. That was one thing I really enjoyed, was stopping shoplifters. I won't be doing that anytime soon. But I do enjoy seeing when I'm on stage and people come up to me who some of them look at me like they want me to die. And I'm like, what am I saying that's making them so mad? And then they come up and they go, thank you for saying what you just said. And I'm like, oh, well, your face said differently, but I appreciate it.
Absolutely.
That's that providing value, providing impact. And all because I'm focusing on who I am and what I can do rather than letting some external role, external assignment be like my identity.
I love that. And you are a great speaker, by the way. And I'm so glad that you're going out there and you're sharing this message. And that's so important, especially someone that's lived it. I just think that, you have that practitioner side of you've been there. You can share that story. And the amount that you're impacting with people with that is just incredible. So keep doing that work that you're doing. Yes, that is huge. And to one of your parts there too about, with the injury and that kind of stuff, I've always liked the term pain has a purpose. And really when things happen, find the better part of that is, yeah, it sucks at the time. I mean, nobody wants to go through heart surgery. No one wants to get out of this, but why is this happening? You might not find it out in a couple years, but your pain does have a purpose, and that's where you can grow a lot of times. When I got denied sergeant twice, that was a very painful thing, but that purpose was, hey, maybe I got to shift my mindset somewhere else and I can be more successful over here.
Oh, definitely. And well, yeah, it's the words you use with not only other people to form relationships with, it's how we talk to ourselves, the language we have. And I bring that up in the 10 code mindset course. Like, are the words you're using helping you or hurting you? And when we're using language like same crap, different day, or why did this have to happen to me, or this is all I can do, or I am not this, that's very limited, self-defeating language. And I don't come to you, and I'm not saying this as some self-righteous know-it-all. Absolutely not. I've said all these things. It's just a matter of who lives, who learns, and who takes the pain and moves on, but also through additional research just to back it up when people are like, oh, bull crap, the words you say can't affect, whatever, like our outcomes. Yes, they can. They shape our beliefs, and we act based on beliefs. So yeah, I would say watch your language when it comes to navigating this type of thing.
I love that. So Scott, when talking about this kind of stuff, one of the things that I noticed, and I talk with my sister a lot about this too, because she works with leaders that just get promoted. And, a lot of times our leaders that are kind of that mid-level leaders. So, if that, whatever profession that might be, in school, you have a vice principal, or, in law enforcement, that might be a sergeant, that's right above patrol officer, and dispatching, that might be a lead dispatcher. How can organizations build cultures where strength and self-awareness are not seen as opposites? So where can those leaders that maybe are out there right now that have just been freshly promoted, how can those organizations build those cultures where strength and self-awareness are not seen as opposites?
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. Great question. I'm one of those that loves how I heard it from John Maxwell. What people do, what people say, and what people say they do are all completely different things. And I believe that ultimately the higher ups have to not only say what they would like for a workplace to be like, but they've got to set the example. It's as simple as that, in my opinion. I mean, if talk about fitness in law enforcement, and then you have a person in a leadership position who clearly doesn't value fitness, it's like, well, how can you tell anyone? How can you set the expectation? One of the best majors I ever worked with, I respected the heck out of this man because he truly tried to connect with us officers. He didn't just say the cliche, I have an open door policy, or, hey, how you doing? Thank you for all that you do. And not knowing what half the people in the room did. But one day he got up and it was the first mental health block I'd ever had in service. 13 years into the career. Couldn't believe it took that long, but we did. And he actually started opening up about his struggles. Well, what do you think happened? Other people were like, okay, this we can be more open about this now. Mm-hmm. So just live what you're saying. And that can tremendously shape the culture. Also, just to bring him up again, John Maxwell, it's like the laws of leadership, 21 laws of leadership. One of them is the ability to influence. And I believe that influencing is not only through words, but our actions. So yeah, live it out.
I love that. And the whole thing, I love what you said about the open door policy. I have an open door policy. Well, how often do you go see your people? Well,
that's so true.
You know what I mean? So if you're not going to see them, they're not going to come into your open door policy. They're going to mimic what you're doing. Or, hey, I encourage my people to speak up. Yeah, but when you do that, you also chew them out. And so you want them to speak up, but at the same time, you're treating them like trash. They're not going to do that. It's a whole, that's that part about leadership that I think is so important, is how do you want other people to be? And you got to model that. So I think that is a huge part. And if someone listening right now feels stuck in survival mode, and they're stuck in that mode, was one small shift, just a small shift they can make today that actually moves the needle? It's New Year's. We're looking, New Year's Eve, we're going into the new year, and they're just, maybe it's through the holidays with family life, maybe it's at their work, whatever it is. what is just one small shift they can make today to actually start moving that needle?
Realize that it is that 1% each and every day that's going to make you a heck of a lot better a year from the time you made that, focused on that 1% betterment. It's just progress. And that's ultimately what prevailing is making progress and growing. It's not like instant success that's sold on the internet on so many ads and stuff like that. It doesn't work that way. But I would, when it gets to get specific with you, Drew, I would say, are you, one, we covered sleep. That's obvious, true. But are you exercising? For me personally, my faith, my fitness, those are the two most important things that helped me when I've been at my worst. Because it was amazing to me that when I would just move, I tend to stay in motion in other aspects of life, and particularly working out early in the morning before all the chaos starts and not waiting for, well, I might work out at the end of the day when you're tired, and it's just tough. I mean, so I would say, but if you're already exercising, you're like, no, I'm still stuck in survival mode. I'm like reacting to everything then start writing things down as to what's bothering you and what the solutions can be. Because one, when you start writing things down, you're actually taking your time to focus on something. And Dr. Renee Thornton, author of Navigating Adversity, she says use blue ink. Apparently it's easier on the eyes and causes less anxiety. Don't ask me how, ask the doctor. That's why I said her. But use blue ink and then write down the solutions. And it'll also empower you to say, okay, I can act upon these things, and it helps to build clarity, and clarity just means a more clear mind, clear vision, clear way forward. So that's like one specific thing. If you're already working out, stuff like that, I would say to do is write things down. And there's other things, obviously, but once you write it down, it's like signing a contract. Like this is established. I'm going to move forward.
I love that. And they always talk about those studies that people that wrote down their goals and see it every day, they're, I don't know what percentage, but more likely to achieve those goals. And I also think when you write things down, again, this is based on research. I can't say exactly where I found it, but they've identified that when you write things down, it's a way of your body releasing that as well, because a lot of those things we hold in, but as you are writing it, you are releasing that from, that central nervous system and all that. And you're giving you some time to relax as you're doing that. So I love that you say that. And that's just a simple thing that I think you can do to just move that needle a little bit. And especially at the end of the year here, if you're reflecting on the past year and you're looking at these kind of things and you're writing that down, hopefully that's starting to, get you set up for a different mindset for the new year to be successful in those little areas. And Scott, when you think about long-term performance, not just short-term success, what does winning actually look like for you?
Think about long-term success?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Winning is fostering good relationships with those who matter most. And then also achieving what you set out to achieve, but learning along the way in case what you wanted to achieve doesn't happen. And then take what you learned and put it to good use some other way, but then ultimately keep helping people. I love the phrase, when you feel helpless, become helpful. I think we were put on this earth for a reason. I believe it was to as cliche as it sounds, help to make the world a better place, as in just make an impact. Like, what good does it do just to wake up for you and then serve you all throughout your life? And then that's it. Like, life ends. So that's what winning is, in my opinion. Some would say, no, I have to be number one at the company or whatever. That might be your opinion. But if you don't get it and you did all you could to get it, does that mean okay, yeah, there can only be one winner, but does that mean you're a loser? I don't look at life that way. So that's my personal opinion, though.
I love it. No, I love that. And, when you say that kind of stuff, I think 100%, and a lot of your books with that are, you live that, and I think that's so powerful. And speaking of that, how can people get a hold of you to speak or buy your book, Scott? Where can people find out more about you? Because you're a phenomenal speaker. I've read a couple of your books. I love them. How can people get a hold of you, get your books, where can they find out more about you?
Well, thanks again for having me on your show, Drew. It means a lot, and your friendship and support is means a lot to me as well. If anyone would like to contact me or learn more about the 10 Code Mindset and how to rise and prevail, it's the scottmedlin.com. But also, if you go to Amazon and just type in my name, Scott Medlin, author, all my books will come up. They're all on Amazon. I'm just self-published on Amazon. So that's it. Yeah, I did have an active YouTube channel, but due to the fact I'm opening up a franchise store, I had to put that to the side. But there's over 400 videos for you to enjoy. They're going to be up on the internet until the end of time. I don't know, but I'm not bringing them down, so you can still go there and watch them.
Awesome, and I'll just give myself a plug here. I've been in a couple of them, which I really enjoyed. No, it was fantastic. Yeah. So
Heck yeah.
I loved it. I love your parts on that, and I think that you do such a good job editing and making those videos on YouTube. Check it out. It is so cool. And I've been watching those ever since I was, up at Bemidji State teaching, and I was, working as a police officer. I remember seeing those. And I'm like, this Scott Medlin guy, he's got it going on. This is,
well,
this is good. This is good.
Yeah.
So,
I think the videos you were a part of. I mean, we've gotten over like 5,000 views with you. So hey, you're getting popular, Drew.
I love it. I love it. And we've encompassed a lot today, Scott. But if you had to just kind of wrap it all into one thing, what is one last thing you would leave with our listeners today? All these people that are coming from all different walks of life, facing some burnout, facing some other things, really important topics that you talked about. What is the one last thing you would like to leave with our listeners today?
Do the hard, necessary things to help yourself and to have you be able to show up that much better for others. Whenever we do what is easy, it will just make things harder in the long run. That would be my last thing. Because, I mean, looking back, anything I did that was easy, it didn't help me in the long run. It never helped my family in the long run or those I care about. It didn't help my faith. Do things that are difficult, and you'll make things a heck of a lot easier for yourself in the long run. Not to say things are going to be easy, but you'll make them easier because you're stronger, more conditioned to rise above them.
Love it. Love it. Well, Scott, thank you for this conversation. What really stands out is the reminder that strength isn't just about pushing through. It's about knowing when to pause, reflect, and take care of yourself so you can keep showing up for the people who count on you. High performance without awareness comes at a cost, and conversations like this help people recognize that before it becomes a crisis. To everyone listening, check in on yourself, check in on your people, and remember that iron sharpens iron, but empathy is what keeps us human. Thanks for listening, and thank you, Scott.
Thank you, Drew.